Welcome to Straightforward Estate Planning with Pedrani Law.
Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of Straightforward Estate Planning with Pedrani Law. I'm your host, Mike Leon. Keith here is the founder of Pedrani Law, and he brings both a legal and business background to helping families plan ahead. He provides clear, practical guidance in estate planning, probate, and Medicaid planning so you can protect your assets, secure your legacy, and have peace of mind for the future. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about business succession planning for small business owners. So Keith, good to see you as always. Let's talk about this. What is business succession planning and why is it important?
Great to see you as well, Mike, and thank you for having me. So business succession planning in a nutshell is planning for when you as the owner have to take a step back, and that could either be due to retirement, that could be incapacity, that could be your death. So it's essentially providing a roadmap for your employees and for whoever is going to be taking the leadership roles moving forward. It's providing that roadmap on how that transition is going to occur and making it known what your plan is before any of those events actually take place.
So Keith, the natural is what happens when businesses don't have this in place? What risk are they facing?
They're facing many risks. The lower end of the spectrum would be just a lack of continuity, some chaos. It's hard enough to run a business when everything is going well, and most of the time everything is not going well. There's issues that you're dealing with, whether that be with vendors, customers, suppliers. I mean, the list is endless on the best day of running a business. So, you risk that lack of continuity, you risk a power vacuum, you risk a lack of leadership, and these are kind of the small items. And then, you could risk the bankruptcy of your company, and you could risk it not continuing to the next generation as you planned, or the people who you envision taking over, they may not take over without a clear plan. You might have employees desert the company because there's no clear direction. You have customers jumping ship because they're sensing that things are chaotic over there. And, as much as they value the relationship at a certain point in time, business is business. So you really, you're risking extinction if you don't have a plan.
So let's talk about the succession plan, for instance. So can you kind of drill into how it offers protection for not only both the business, but the owner's family?
So a well-done succession plan is going to provide clarity first and foremost. And that's clarity for the company on who's supposed to step up into those leadership roles, who's supposed to be making decisions, who continues the operation of the company, what that person or people need to do that. So, that's transferring information that's necessary to lead the company. And then the family aspect of it really varies depending on how involved the family is with the business. So the protection, again, I go back to that word clarity. You want to be clear with your family as to what their role is to be when you step away. If you have family members that are already in the business, they might make the assumption that when you step back, regardless of the reason, they ascend to your role. Now, that might be accurate, that might not be accurate as to what you want to happen and what should happen, but that needs to be spelled out. So spelling it out, making it clear, that's what gives everyone the direction they need to keep the company going. So it protects the family because it's spelled out who operates what, and that might involve the family or it might not. And a good succession plan should also spell out who is entitled to what, meaning does the family continue to draw income from the business while you're not operating? Of course, ideally, yes, they would. You would just want to spell out exactly how much they're entitled to, what they need to do to get it, if anything, and what has to take place in order to make changes within the plan that you left, the roadmap that you left behind.
Keith, what about the options for small business owners that want to pass it on to the next generation, or they want to transition into a new owner? Can you kind of break down what options both of these categories, these small business owners have with respect to both of those things?
Sure. So again, I'll keep coming back to the word clarity and the word continuity. So I'm going to oversimplify for the sake of conversation, but you have two main options if you're keeping it in the family. And that would be a succession plan that starts while you're living, meaning that you start to give over shares in a corporation, start to give membership interest in an LLC over to your family members during their lifetime, and you groom them for the leadership position that you want them to take in your absence. Uh, you can also have different buy-sell agreements in place, and those could work whether you're passing to family or you want to pass to, well, not pass, but have the business be sold to somebody outside of the family. Could be a key employee, could be somebody outside of the business. The point is you want to put into words, into your plan, exactly the formula that you want to be used or the purchase price that you want to be used or a valuation method that you want to be used to value the interest, and then spell out who you want to have the opportunity to purchase those interests. So that could be family members, that could be an outside bidder, that could be an employee. You just have to make it clear. And what you often see is that you'll get a fair market valuation, or the instructions will be to put the business on the market, and you'll give, the family the right of last refusal, or you'll give a key employee the right of last refusal. There's innumerable permutations and different plans that you can put in place, but the main point is to actually put one in place. Otherwise, as I alluded to earlier, you have chaos and you don't have any order within the company in your absence.
A Captain Obvious question here, but maybe it needs more oversimplification in your words. Succession planning in a family-owned business versus a regular small business. What are some of the key differences? Is it just, hey, we're all related, we're trying to keep it within the family, other than a small business, or are there other factors at play?
So the biggest factor that you're dealing with in a family business, because it's really all structured the same, right? Whether you and I are in business together or me and my brother are in business together, we have to choose an entity structure. We should have an operating agreement or a shareholder agreement. We should have documents in place that govern how we do business together, regardless of whether or not we're related or not. What comes into play with family businesses that you don't really have to deal with, and I'll just call it a to use your term, a non-family small business, is family dynamics. So family dynamics can really complicate things because you may have documents in place with your brother, but you have more than that, an understanding with them of how things are supposed to run. But you both may have very different views of what that understanding actually is. You also have family members who are active in the business versus family members who are not active in the business, and they both might be deriving income or other, shall we say, fringe benefits from the business, even though they're not directly involved. And some of those arrangements might be open and known throughout the company, and really wouldn't present an issue if the leader were to step back. It would be known to continue and keep going, and some of them might be less obvious and might come as a surprise to, say, a son taking over for his father unexpectedly. Unless it's spelled out, that son might be surprised by some of the family members that are not working in the business necessarily, who are still benefiting from the business. So, these are things that the next generation, this people or person that's succeeding, you really need to know about. And in a family business, it's all the more important to spell out not only the proverbial X's and O's of operation, but also to make sure everyone has the same understanding as to the family's involvement or benefit from the business.
Keith, a moment ago, you mentioned about buy-sell agreements. Other documents like estate planning documents, trust, buy-sell agreements, how are these used in a business succession plan?
So a trust can really be invaluable in business succession planning, because as we've touched on in previous episodes, a trust really shines in its ability to direct during periods of incapacity, in that gray area where you haven't passed away, but you're not able to make any decisions. So you can name a successor to trustee to act in that situation, and you do have to take the formal step of putting the shares, the membership interest into the trust. So the ownership has to be transferred from an individual to that individual's trustee, and the trust has to spell out exactly who controls what when certain trigger events happen. So whether that trigger event is incapacity or it's death, the trust is going to allow you to operate the business continuously and clearly by the instructions of the trust, because you're not going to have to wait for court intervention via probate because the shares are already in the trust. They're outside of your probate estate. If you were to leave your shares in a will, then you might have a period of waiting for the court to act to formally issue those shares from your estate. It could be less clear than a trust, and it certainly wouldn't operate instantaneously like a trust would. A trust is really invaluable, especially in the family business setting, but it can be used for any regular small business or any business really. You would just have a different set of trustees and successor trustees in those situations. And then the buy-sell agreements, having those in place, again, it reduces ambiguity and it makes sure that the business is passed or sold in the way that the owner is intending it to be passed or sold.
So, Keith, let me ask you, what financial or tax issues should business owners take into account when they're creating this succession plan?
It really depends on how everything is going to be passed on and who it's going to be passed on to. So it depends on if you're doing an asset sale versus if you're actually selling the company itself. All of that's going to be taxed differently. So the most important thing to do is really get a CPA involved, figure out the most tax efficient way for you to pass your business on to who you want to pass it on, and how you want to achieve that. So, I work with certified public accountants to help advise my clients. And I don't mean to be vague in this answer. It's just so situation and fact specific, that, to provide kind of general advice would really be somewhat disingenuous. So it really depends on how your company is held currently, how you want it to pass, and who you want it to pass to. So once you have those questions answered, then it's best to consult with a tax professional and an attorney like myself so we can develop a plan around your specific situation.
So, Keith, I think the last question goes without saying, because if a business owner is listening to this and they don't have a succession plan in place, what's the first thing that they should do?
The most important part is to talk to everybody who is involved in your succession plan to make sure that they know that they are involved in your succession plan. And more importantly, or just as important, make sure that they understand their role in the business's next step. So again, clarity and continuity. So once you have the idea of what you want to happen to your business, so let's say that you're in a first generation business, you have multiple children that are working in the business, you want all of them to ascend to leadership roles when you step away. You need to speak with them, make sure that they're ready for that role, that they're on board with taking over. You need to discuss with them the structure that they would be comfortable with, because as we've discussed in previous episodes, the plan is one thing, but you can't oblige somebody to do anything. They can refuse their role. They can decide to go in a different direction. So you want to make sure that everybody's on board. That's first and foremost. Once they're on board with the plan, you have to basically figure out the best way to make the handoff, so to speak. And once you have that idea in your head, then it's time to consult professionals. It's time to get a team together, and it's time to have some potentially awkward conversations or difficult conversations. And it's time to get insurance policies in place, whether that's key man insurance, life insurance, or whatever you're going to need to make sure that the business has adequate liquidity to handle the transfer, and to do what needs to be done. Once you have covered those bases, it's reaching out to a professional like myself. It's reaching out to an accountant, or if you reach out to me, I have accountants that I work with, and make sure that everything is structured in the way that empowers your family or empowers the employees that you want to take over your business, or spells out very clearly how you want your business to be sold and how you want the proceeds handled from that sale. And then the professionals, myself included, basically formulate the best plan to effectuate your wishes.
Keith, thank you for the time and insights around all this. We truly appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Take care.
And thank you to everybody for listening to another episode of Straightforward Estate Planning with Pedrani Law. If you're a business owner, you're ready to start planning for the future of your company, do me a favor, visit pedranilaw.com today to schedule a consultation with Keith and the team. And don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a review and comment, or share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. As always, I'm Mike Leon. We'll see everybody next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.